My family forced me to sell my company to pay my brother's debts. When I discovered he spent the money on luxury items, I made a decision that destroyed them. I'm Alex. I'm 35 years old, and this is the story of how my own family almost ruined my life, but ended up destroying themselves instead. I never thought I'd be writing this, but I need to get it off my chest because what happened is so insane it sounds like something out of a soap opera. To understand this whole mess, I have to start from the beginning. I come from a middle-class family where my parents always had their small businesses. My dad owned an auto repair shop, and my mom had a small clothing boutique. Nothing extraordinary, but we lived comfortably. The problem was always my older brother, Rick, who's 38 and has always been the family's golden child. Rick was the one who got good grades without trying, played sports, had a girlfriend since he was 15. Meanwhile, I was the family nerd. While he was busy being popular, I spent my afternoons programming on an old second-hand computer I'd managed to get. My parents always saw my tech hobby as a waste of time and constantly compared me to Rick. "Why can't you be more like your brother?" was the phrase I heard most at home. "Rick's going to inherit the shop and have a stable life. You with those computers aren't going anywhere." When I graduated high school, my parents wanted me to study something serious like business, administration or accounting to help with the family business, but I had other plans. I enrolled in computer science, paying for college with weekend jobs, fixing computers and tutoring. During college, Rick had married Elena and had 2 kids. My parents were thrilled. They had a daughter-in-law, grandchildren, and Rick had indeed started working at the shop with my dad. It was the perfect family, except for me, who was still wasting time with computers. When I graduated, instead of looking for a job at a big corporation, I decided to start my own software development business. It was 2012, and the tech boom was just beginning to take off in the US, but I could see the potential. I started working from my bedroom at my parents' house, developing websites and applications for small businesses. My family's reaction was predictable. "Alex, stop playing around and get a real job," my mum would tell me. "Look at your brother. He has stability." "Son, the shop needs someone to handle the books," my dad would insist. "Stop this computer nonsense." But I believed in my project. During the first year, I barely made enough to cover my basic expenses, but little by little, I started getting bigger clients. By the second year, I had to hire 2 more programmers. By the third year, I had rented a small office and had a team of 8 people. Meanwhile, Rick was still at the shop, but he was starting to have grand ideas. He wanted to expand the business, open branches, become the king of auto repair shops in the city. The problem was he had neither the administrative skills nor the business vision to make it happen. By 2016, my company was already regionally recognized. We had developed a restaurant management system that was selling very well, and we were working on mobile applications for various sectors. I had 25 employees and offices in 2 cities. For the first time in my life, I was making more money than I had ever dreamed of. But my family still didn't take it seriously. "Alex is still playing with his computers," my mom would tell visitors. "The one who really works is Rick at his dad's shop." The irony was that Rick had started getting into questionable investments. He had read about franchises and business opportunities and was constantly borrowing money for surefire projects that invariably failed. First was a fast food franchise that went bankrupt in 6 months because Rick didn't understand anything about restaurant management. Then it was a unique opportunity to import products from China that turned out to be a scam. Then he wanted to open a gym without having any experience in the fitness sector. Each failure put him deeper in debt, but my parents always found ways to justify it. "Rick is brave, he takes risks for his family. At least he's not locked up all day in front of a screen." Real businesses have risks, not like those computer games. By 2018, things started getting really bad for Rick. His debts had grown so much that he could no longer cover them with his salary from the shop. He had taken loans from banks, pawn shops, and what bothered me most, he had been using my parents' names and properties as collateral without them fully understanding the implications. That's when the family pressure on me began. It all started with casual conversations during Sunday family dinners. "Alex," my mum would say, "your brother is going through a tough time. Since you have your business, couldn't you help him a little?" "Son," my dad would add, "family helps family. Rick would do the same for you." At first, I helped with small amounts. $500 here, $1,000 there. Just to get him out of trouble, they told me. But the troubles became constant, and the amount started growing. The situation became unsustainable when, at a family gathering, Rick arrived crying with Elena and the kids. He had received threats from loan sharks and had 1 week to pay $15,000 or they'd lose their house. "Alex," my parents told me, "you're the only one who can save him. Your business is doing well. You can help your brother." I agreed to lend him the money, but with conditions. I wanted a signed contract with a payment plan and guarantees. Rick agreed to everything, crying and promising it would be the last time. Of course, it wasn't the last time. 3 months later, he came with another problem. He had used the money I lent him to pay those debts, but had continued spending recklessly and now owed $22,000 to other loan sharks. "You don't understand," my mom told me when I refused to help again. "If you don't help him, they're going to hurt your brother. Can you live with that guilt?" "Alex, you're his brother," my dad scolded me. "Family is the most important thing. Money can be recovered, but family can't." The pressure was constant. Elena would come to the house with the kids, crying, telling my parents they were being threatened. Rick would arrive with evidence of the threats and dramatic stories about men following him. I ended up lending him another $22,000. By early 2019, the situation was unsustainable. Rick had gotten into debt again, this time for even larger amounts, but what bothered me most was that he had started flaunting a lifestyle that clearly didn't match his income. Suddenly, Rick was wearing designer clothes, had traded his car for a new one, and Elena was constantly posting photos on social media of expensive restaurants and weekend trips. When I asked him directly about this, he told me they were gifts from shop clients and that he was making important connections for future business. My parents, of course, believed it all. It was at a family dinner in March 2019 when everything exploded. Rick arrived more desperate than ever. This time, he owed $60,000 and said if he didn't pay within 2 weeks, they would not only lose their house, but they might hurt the whole family. "Alex," my dad told me with tears in his eyes, "you have to help your brother. It's life or death. If you don't help him," my mom added, "and something happens to Rick or the kids, I'll never forgive myself, and neither should you." The pressure was suffocating. The whole family was looking at me like I was a heartless monster. Eleanor was crying while hugging her children. Rick was shaking and saying he had already received direct threats. "I don't have $60,000 in cash," I explained. "I'd have to sell part of the company." "Then sell it," my dad said without hesitation. "It's just a business. Family is more important." "Alex," my mom begged, "please, he's your brother. You can build another business, but you can't get your brother back if something happens to him." The emotional pressure was so intense that I ended up giving in. I sold 40% of my company to my main partner for $68,000. I gave Rick $60,000 for his debts and kept $8,000 for personal expenses. Rick cried, hugged me, and promised that now he really would change, that with this second chance he would be responsible and someday pay me back with interest. My parents were so happy they organized a family celebration dinner where they treated me like the hero who had saved the family. For 3 months, things seemed to calm down. Rick said he had settled all his debts and was focusing on working at the shop and rebuilding his life. But then in June 2019, I saw something that chilled my blood. I was browsing Facebook when I saw Elena had posted photos from a vacation in Miami. These weren't photos from a modest hotel, but from a 5-star resort. In the photos, you could see Rick with a new Rolex, Elena with designer bags, and the kids in what was clearly the presidential suite of the hotel. I confronted Rick immediately. "Where did you get money for that vacation?" I asked him directly. "Oh, that," he said. Nervously, Elena had savings from her job. Elena, who works part-time at a store, had savings for a 5-star resort in Miami. Well, we also won something in the lottery. A small amount. The lies were so obvious it was embarrassing. Over the following weeks, I started investigating discreetly. What I discovered left me speechless. Rick hadn't paid a single dollar of debts. Instead, he had used my money for buying himself a new car that cost $30,000, completely renovating. His house with $15,000, the Miami vacation that cost $6,000, designer clothes, jewelry, and gadgets for another $7,000, and he had spent the remaining $2,000 on dinners and entertainment. Meanwhile, he kept getting into debt with other lenders because, now that he had a better appearance and better connections, he could get better business opportunities. When I confronted my parents with this information, their reaction surprised me more than Rick's lies. "Alex," my mum told me, "maybe Rick deserved it. He's been working very hard." "Son," my dad added, "maybe he needed those things to feel better and be able to move forward." "Are you serious?" I yelled at them. "I sold my company so he could go on vacation to Miami." "Don't yell," my mom scolded me. "Rick is going through difficult times. Sometimes people need to give themselves little treats to keep their morale up. Besides," my dad added, "you have more money. It's easier for you to recover." It was at that moment I realized something terrible. My family had never respected my work, my effort, or my achievements. To them, my company was simply easy money that could be sacrificed for Rick without consequences. I left that meeting feeling betrayed, used, and completely disillusioned with my family. But what came next was even worse. 2 weeks after our argument, Rick showed up again at my parents' house. This time he owed $90,000, and the story was the same. Threats, danger to the E, family life or death, and my family expected me to save him again. "Alex," my dad told me, "I know you're upset about what happened before, but this time it's different. This time, he really will change." "You already sold part of the company once," my mom added. "You can sell another part. After all, you still have more money than all of us." "He's your brother," Elena begged me with the kids behind her. "Are you going to let them hurt your brother over money?" It was at that moment when I made the most important decision of my life. "No," I told them clearly. "I'm not going to give another dollar for Rick's debts." The reaction was immediate and brutal. "You're selfish," my mom yelled at me. "Your own brother could die and you prefer your money." "Alex," my dad told me with contempt, "I never thought a son of mine would be so cruel and calculating." "Uncle," one of Rick's kids said to me, "why don't you want to help my dad?" Rick said nothing, just cried, dramatically, while Elena looked at me with hatred. But I had already made my decision. I stood up and told them something I had been thinking about for weeks. "You're right about one thing. I am different from you, but I'm not cruel or calculating. I'm smart, and that's why I'm going to do something I should have done a long time ago." I left the house, and during the entire drive back, I was thinking about my plan. You see, there's something I had never told my family because I had never felt the need to show off or brag. Something that was going to completely change the rules of the game. When I sold 40% of my company to save Rick, it wasn't a devastating loss for me. By then, my company had grown so much that the 60% I kept was worth more than the original 100%. Plus, I had been reinvesting profits in other projects and properties. But more importantly, I owned the properties where my dad's shop operated. Years ago, when my dad's shop started having financial problems, he was about to lose the location. I discreetly had bought the entire building and rented it to him at a symbolic rate. I had also bought the building where my mum's store was when she had similar problems. My parents thought they had gotten better rental deals with the owners, but in reality I had been their landlord for 5 years. Also, during all these years of helping with small amounts, I had been lending them money for business improvements, expansions, and personal expenses. I had signed contracts for all these loans, although I had never pressured for payment because they were my family. Adding it all up, my parents owed me approximately $30,000 in direct loans, and the shop depended completely on the property I owned. It was time for my family to learn the real financial situation. The next day, I hired the best lawyer in the city and asked him to prepare 2 things. 1. A formal lawsuit for the collection of all the loans I had made to my parents over the last 5 years, with interest. 2. A lease termination notice for the shop and store with a 30-day period to vacate the properties. But before proceeding legally, I decided to give them one last chance to understand reality. I organized a family meeting for the following Sunday. I told them I had something important to discuss about the family situation. Everyone came. My parents, Rick, Elena, and even some uncles who had been pressuring me to help the family. "Before you start asking me to sell more parts of my company to save Rick again," I told them, "I want to show you something." I took out a folder with all the documents and put them in front of them. "Dad, Mom," I told them, "did you know that you owe me $32,000 in loans I've made to you over the last 5 years?" The confusion on my parents' faces was genuine. To them, I had simply helped them from time to time. "And did you know," I continued, "that I own the building where the shop and store are? That for 5 years I've been charging you symbolic rent that barely covers my maintenance expenses?" The silence in the room was total. "Alex," my dad said nervously, "what are you talking about?" I explained everything. How I had bought the properties when they were in financial trouble. How I had meticulously documented every loan I had made to them. How for years I had been the one saving them financially, not the other way around. "But you always saw my work as computer games," I continued. "You always assumed Rick was the responsible and hard-working one, and that I was the one living in an unreal world." "Alex," my mom interrupted, "I don't understand what you mean by all this." "What I mean," I replied, "is that the next time Rick needs money for his debts, he and you are going to have to find another way to get it. Because I'm not only not going to give more money, but I'm going to start collecting what you owe me." I took out the lease contracts and showed them. "Starting next month, the shop rent will be $1,800 per month, which is the real market price. The store rent will be $100 to $100 per month. And," I added, taking out the loan documents, "I want you to start paying me the $32,000 you owe me, with a payment plan of $900 per month." The shocked faces were priceless. "Alex," my dad stammered, "you can't be serious." "I'm completely serious," I replied. "For years you've assumed my money was easy money that could be spent on Rick's whims. Now you're going to learn the real value of work and money." Rick, who had been quiet during the entire explanation, finally exploded. "You can't do this to us. We're your family." "Exactly," I replied. "You're my family. The same family that has been lying to me, manipulating me, and using me for years. The same family that sees my work as a game and my achievements as luck." "But Alex," Elena begged me, "what are we going to do? We can't pay those rents." "You can do the same thing I did when I started," I told them. "Work hard, save, and build something for yourselves. Or you can ask Rick for help, since according to you he's so hard-working and responsible." My mom started crying. "Alex, please, you can't destroy your family over money." "I'm not destroying the family," I replied. "You already did that when you decided my work and effort weren't worth anything, but my money could be spent freely." I got up to leave, but before going out I told them one more thing. "You have two options. You can accept the new conditions and start paying me what you owe me, or you can try to find other properties for your businesses and other lenders for your debts. But you're not going to keep using my money to finance Rick's irresponsible lifestyle." I left the house while everyone was yelling at me, begging me and insulting me. That night, I couldn't sleep, but not from regret. For the first time in years, I felt free. Update 1. It's been 3 months since the family meeting, and things have evolved in ways I never would have imagined. As expected, my parents initially tried to ignore my ultimatums. They thought I would come to my senses after a few days, and everything would return to normal. It didn't happen. On August 1st, my lawyer formally delivered the rent adjustment notices and the lawsuit for loan collection. Reality hit them like a bucket of cold water. My dad called me furious. "Alex, are you crazy? How can you do this to your family?" "Dad," I replied calmly, "I'm not doing anything to you. I'm charging you the real market price for services I've been subsidizing for years." "But we're your family." "Exactly. And as family, I expect you to respect my work as much as I've respected yours." My mom tried the emotional route. "Alex, you're breaking my heart. I never thought my own son would be capable of something like this." "Mom," I told her, "you never thought your own son would build a successful company, but I did. You also didn't think your own son would be subsidizing your business for years, but I was doing it. There are many things about me you've never thought about." But the most interesting reaction was Rick's. At first he tried to continue with his usual manipulations. He called me crying, saying that now the loan sharks were going to hurt the whole family because he couldn't pay his debts. "Rick," I told him, "that's no longer my problem. You created those debts, you solved them. But I used the money you gave me to buy a car and go on vacation instead of paying the loan sharks. If they threaten you, it's because you decided to lie to me." Then he tried to involve Eleanor and the kids. Eleanor called me crying, "Alex, please, the kids aren't to blame for their dad's mistakes." "You're right," I replied. "The kids aren't to blame. but it's also not my responsibility to finance their dad's lifestyle. What can we do? Rick can't get the money your parents now need for rent. Eleanor, I told her, Rick can do the same thing any responsible person does, get a better paying job, sell the unnecessary things he bought with my money, and start living within his means. But here's where the story gets really interesting. It turns out Rick had been lying about much more than I thought. One afternoon, Elena called me hysterical. Alex, I need to talk to you. It's about Rick. We met at a coffee shop and what she told me left me speechless. Alex, she said, Rick never had problems with dangerous loan sharks. What do you mean? The threats he received, the men who supposedly followed him, all of that was lies. He had asked me to act scared in front of the family to make it more convincing. Eleanor explained that Rick's debts were real, but they were mainly credit cards and bank loans. Nothing that could result in physical threats or violence. Why are you telling me this now? Asked. Because, she said, crying, when you told your parents you weren't going to help anymore, Rick panicked. He told me we needed a more dramatic plan to convince you. What kind of plan? He wanted us to pretend that one of the kids had been kidnapped. I froze. Elena, please tell me you're kidding. No, Alex. He wanted us to hide our oldest son for a few days and tell the family he had been kidnapped to pressure you for the debt money. It was when he proposed that I realized Rick is really sick. He's not just irresponsible with money. He's willing to traumatize his own children to get easy money. Eleanor told me she had rejected the plan and threatened to divorce him if Rick continued making up lies to manipulate the family. And what does Rick plan to do now? I asked. I don't know, she said. He's desperate. He says if he doesn't get money soon, he's going to lose everything. Elena, did you know Rick had spent my money on luxuries instead of paying debts? She turned red with embarrassment. Yes, I knew. He convinced me he deserved it after so much stress. He told me that with better appearance and more confidence, he could get better business opportunities to pay you back later. And the Miami vacation? He said we needed to disconnect to be able to think better about solutions. I knew it was wrong, but I don't know, he's very convincing when he wants to be. Eleanor asked me not to tell Rick we had talked, but she wanted me to know the truth because she felt guilty about participating in the lies. That night, processing all this information, I realized I had made the right decision. Rick wasn't just financially irresponsible. He was a pathological manipulator willing to do anything to avoid the consequences of his actions. Meanwhile, my parents' financial situation was becoming unsustainable. With the new rents and loan payments, they needed to generate an extra $3,900 per month. My dad's shop wasn't generating enough income to cover those expenses, especially since clientele had decreased due to poor management during the years Rick had been helping. My mom had to temporarily close the store because she simply couldn't pay the new rent with the sales she had. It was then that my parents tried their last resort, the extended family. They organized a meeting with uncles, cousins, and other relatives to tell them how their heartless son was extorting them and destroying the family business. But here they made a strategic mistake. They invited my Uncle Robert, my dad's younger brother. Robert is an accountant and has always been the most pragmatic in the family. When my parents explained the situation to him, he asked to see all the documents. After reviewing the loan contracts and rental agreements, Robert told them something they didn't expect. Alex is right about everything. How can you say that? My mom yelled at him. He's his family. Precisely because he's his family, Robert replied. Alex has been subsidizing your businesses for years. He's lent you money without charging interest, and you've been treating his money like it was an unlimited fund for Rick's whims. Robert, my dad said, whose side are you on? I'm on the side of justice, Robert replied. And frankly, I'm surprised Alex tolerated this situation for so long. Robert explained to them that from a financial perspective, I had been incredibly generous and patient. He also told them that if they went to a bank to ask for the same loans I had given them, they would be paying much higher interest. Alex isn't punishing you, Robert told them. He's treating you like responsible adults who should take care of their financial obligations. The family meeting ended with most relatives understanding my position. Some even called me afterward to apologize for misjudging the situation. But the final blow came from where I least expected it. It turns out that during all these years, Rick had been stealing from the shop. My dad discovered that Rick had been billing for mechanical work that was never done, charging for parts that were never purchased, and literally taking money from the cash register for his personal expenses. When my dad reviewed the books with Robert's help, they discovered that Rick had stolen approximately $11,000 over the last 2 years. That was the last straw for my parents. My dad fired Rick from the shop and told him he was never welcome in the family business again. My mum, who had always defended Rick, finally saw reality and stopped talking to him. But here's where things get really satisfying. Update 2. It's been 8 months since everything exploded, and the consequences have been more dramatic than I ever imagined. First, let's talk about Rick. With my parents finally seeing the reality of who Rick is, his family support network completely collapsed. He could no longer count on the shop as a stable source of income, and he definitely couldn't count on more family loans. Unable to pay his real debts, which although not as dramatic as he painted them, were still substantial, he had to sell the car he had bought with my money. But since he had taken out the car loan using the car itself as collateral, the money from the sale barely covered what he owed on the vehicle. Eleanor, seeing that Rick had no intention of changing his habits, finally asked him for a divorce. "I can't keep living with someone who's willing to fake our own children's kidnapping to get money," she told me when she told me about her decision. The divorce was a disaster for Rick. Eleanor got primary custody of the kids, and Rick was left obligated to pay child support, that frankly he can't afford with the occasional jobs he now gets. The last I heard about him is that he's living in a rented room and working as a mechanic at a shop that's not family-owned, earning a fraction of what he made when he worked with my dad. The irony is delicious. The stable and hard-working son ended up divorced, broke, and working for others, while the son who played with computers owns properties and prosperous businesses. Now let's talk about my parents. The first few months were hard for them. They had to make drastic adjustments to their lifestyles and businesses to be able to meet their new financial obligations. My dad had to let go of one shop employee and start working more hours himself. My mom had to get a part-time job at a department store to generate extra income, but something interesting happened during this process. For the first time in years, my parents started to really value money and work. Not having a family emergency fund, me, to turn to, they had to start planning their expenses better, working more efficiently, and making smarter business decisions. The shop, without Rick stealing money and without the possibility of solving financial problems with my money, started working better. My dad had to update his work methods, improve customer service, and manage inventory better. To my surprise, after 6 months, my parents called me. "Alex," my dad told me, "we want to talk to you." We met at a neutral restaurant. My parents looked tired, but also different. More humble, I'd say. "Son," my mom told me, "we want to apologize." "Apologize for what specifically?" I asked. "Them. I wasn't going to make this easy. For not having valued your work," my dad told me. "For having treated your money like it had no value. For having put Rick before you when you were the one really helping us. For having emotionally manipulated you to pay for your brother's mistakes," my mom added, "and for not having defended you when Rick was lying to you." I stayed silent for a moment, processing their words. "And what made you change your minds?" I asked them. "Working without a safety net," my dad replied honestly. "For the first time in years we had to face the real consequences of our financial decisions, and we realized how much we had depended on you without even thanking you. Also," my mom added, "seeing who Rick really is, we can't believe we were so blind for so long." "And what do you expect from this conversation?" I asked them. "Nothing," my dad told me. "We don't expect you to forgive. We don't expect you to change the loan conditions or the rents. We just wanted you to know that we finally understand. And that we're proud of you," my mom added with tears in her eyes. "You built something incredible, and we were too foolish to see it." It was an emotional conversation, but I wasn't ready to forgive and forget immediately. "I appreciate your apologies," I told them, "but I need to see real changes over an extended period before I can consider modifying our financial agreements." "We understand completely," my dad told me, "and we're not asking you to. We just wanted you to know the truth." It's been 3 months since that conversation, and my parents have religiously kept up with all payments. They haven't asked me for a single extra dollar, haven't tried to emotionally manipulate me, and have been working hard to rebuild their businesses sustainably. Last week, something incredible happened. My dad called me to tell me he'd had his best month in years at the shop, without Rick stealing money, and with more efficient management. He had managed to significantly increase his profits. Alex, he told me, I think we're going to be able to start making extra payments to pay off what we owe you faster. Dad, I replied, take your time. The important thing is that the business is sustainable. No, son, he told me, I want to pay you as soon as possible. I owe you much more than money, and paying this debt is the least I can do. But the real surprise came last week. Update 3A. Year after the big family confrontation, things have taken a turn I never would have imagined. But before getting to the big surprise, let me tell you what happened with the rest of the characters in this story. Rick hit rock bottom in ways that even surprised me. After the divorce and losing his job at the shop, he tried several jobs but didn't last at any of them. Apparently, a life of manipulating others to get easy money doesn't prepare you to work honestly. The last I heard is that he had tried to borrow money from uncles and cousins using the same emotional manipulation tactics he had used with me, but the family already knew his story, so no one lent him a penny. Eleanor, on the other hand, is flourishing. She got a full-time job at a marketing company and is studying to finish a degree she had left incomplete when she married Rick. She's told me that for the first time in years, she feels in control of her life. My parents continued religiously keeping up with all payments and, more importantly, never again asked me for money for family emergencies. In fact, my dad had managed to grow the business so much that he proposed increasing the monthly payments to pay off the debt faster. But what really changed everything was a call I received 3 weeks ago. Alex, my dad told me, can you come to the house? Your mum and I have something important to tell you. I went thinking maybe they had had some health problem or some real family emergency. When I arrived, my parents were sitting in the living room with a bunch of papers on the table. Son, my mum told me, we've been thinking a lot about everything that happened and we've made a decision. What kind of decision? I asked. We want to give you something, my dad said, pushing the papers toward me. It was the deed to the auto repair shop. What is this? I asked, confused. We want you to own the shop, my mom told me. Legally, officially. I don't understand, I told them. Why would you do this? Because, my dad explained, during this year we've realized that you're the only one in this family who really understands business and finances. The shop has grown more this year under my new methods than in the previous 5 years, and those methods I learned by watching how you handle your companies. Besides, my mom added, we want to make sure that never again can someone like Rick manipulate or steal from the family. Business. But it's your business, I told them. It's your inheritance, your life's work. No, my dad told me firmly. Our real business was raising children. And it turns out one of our children is a successful entrepreneur who could grow this shop in ways we could never imagine. And the other, my mom added sadly, will never be welcome near this business again. They explained that they had been planning this for months. They wanted to transfer the shop to me as a combination of apology, recognition, and smart business strategy. Alex, my dad told me, you have the knowledge to digitize the shop, implement modern management systems, and expand the business in ways we don't even understand. We'll continue working here, my mom added, but as your employees, and we'll be happy to do it. And what about the debt you owe me? I asked. That's part of the deal, my dad told me. We consider the value of the shop covers the pending debt. Honestly, I was speechless. My whole life I had dreamed of my parents recognizing my work and capabilities. I never imagined it would come this way after so much conflict and pain. I need to think about it, I told them. Of course, my mom replied. Take all the time you need. Over the next 2 weeks, I analyzed the proposal from every angle. I consulted with my lawyer, my accountant, and my business partners. From a financial standpoint, the shop had real potential. With the right systems, digital presence and proper management, it could become a solid and profitable business. But more important than that, accepting the proposal would mean my parents finally saw me for what I had always been, a capable entrepreneur and a valuable son. Last week I gave them my answer. I accept, I told them, but with conditions. Whatever you want, my dad said immediately. First, I told them, you're going to continue being the operational managers of the shop. I'm going to be the owner and make strategic decisions, but you know the business better than I do. Second, we're going to implement modern management systems. including management software that I'm going to develop specifically for the shop. Third, we're going to expand services to include computerized diagnostics and specialized services that require advanced technology. And fourth, I added with a smile, Rick will never, under any circumstances, work at this business or have access to its finances. All those conditions seem perfect to us, my mum said, crying with happiness. We signed the papers last week, and I'm officially the owner of the auto repair shop where my dad has worked for 25 years. The irony of this whole situation isn't lost on me. The son who played with computers and didn't understand real business now owns the family business. But what excites me most isn't the revenge or vindication. It's the opportunity to work with my parents as respected partners, not as sources of money or critics of my career. Yesterday, my dad taught me how to diagnose a transmission problem I'd never seen before. Today, I taught him how to use the new digital inventory system I developed for the shop. For the first time in my adult life, I feel like I have a functional family. And Rick, well, Rick is still Rick. The last time I heard about him, he was trying to convince Elena to lend him money for the kids' sake. Elena hung up on him. Some people never learn, but some families with the right pain and pressure can change. And sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying those who hurt you, but building something so successful that they have no choice but to recognize your worth. Final update. 1 year later. I'm writing this final update exactly 1 year after my parents transferred the auto shop to me, and I have to say, it's been the most transformative year of my life. The shop has exceeded all my expectations. We've implemented a complete digital overhaul, online appointment booking, computerized diagnostic systems, and a customer management platform I developed specifically for automotive services. Revenue has increased by 180% in just 1 year. More importantly, we've expanded into specialized services that other local shops can't offer. We now do hybrid vehicle maintenance, advanced computer diagnostics, and we've even started a mobile service where we go to customers' locations for basic maintenance. My parents have embraced the changes enthusiastically. My dad, who I thought would resist technology, is now our best salesman for the computerized diagnostic services. My mum handles customer relations and has turned out to have a natural talent for social media marketing. But the real success isn't financial, it's personal. Last month, at a family barbecue, yes, we have those again, my dad stood up and made a toast. "I want to say something," he announced to the extended family who had gathered. "A year ago, I thought I knew what success looked like. I thought it was working with your hands, following tradition, playing it safe. But my son Alex taught me that real success is vision, innovation, and having the courage to build something new. He didn't just save our business, he transformed it into something we never could have imagined. Alex, I'm sorry it took me so long to see what you were building. I'm sorry I ever doubted you. And I'm proud to work for the smartest businessman I know, who happens to be my son." I'm not ashamed to say I teared up. My uncle Robert, who had supported me during the family crisis, raised his glass and said, "To Alex, who proved that sometimes the best way to fix a family is to stop enabling it." As for Rick, well, his story took a turn I didn't see coming. About 6 months ago, Elena called me with news. Rick had reached out to her, not asking for money, but to apologize. Apparently, hitting rock bottom had finally forced him to confront his behavior. "He's in therapy," Elena told me. "Real therapy, not just saying what people want to hear. He asked me to tell you that he understands now why you did what you did. He said to tell you that you didn't abandon him. You stopped enabling him. And that was the push he needed to finally grow up." I haven't spoken to Rick directly yet. I'm not ready for that, and maybe I never will be. But I'm glad he's getting help, both for his sake and for his kids. Elena, by the way, finished her degree and got promoted to marketing manager at her company. She's dating someone new, a teacher who, according to her, is the most stable, honest person I've ever met. "After Rick," she told me, "I realized I was attracted to chaos because I thought it was excitement. Now I know the difference between someone who creates drama and someone who creates opportunities." The kids are doing well too. They spend weekends with Rick, and Eleanor says he's actually trying to be a better father. Whether that lasts remains to be seen, but it's progress. As for me, the success of the auto shop led to unexpected opportunities. Other small business owners in town started asking me to help them modernize their operations. I now have a consulting side business helping traditional businesses integrate technology and improve their systems. My original software company is still thriving too, having multiple revenue streams, and being able to work with my parents in a healthy relationship has given me a perspective on success I never had before. I learned that money isn't just about accumulation, it's about leverage and boundaries. The same financial pressure that nearly destroyed my family also saved it by forcing everyone to confront reality. I also learned that respect can't be demanded. It has to be earned. But once you stop accepting disrespect, people either adjust their behavior or remove themselves from your life. Either outcome improves your situation. The most important lesson? Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is to stop protecting them from the consequences of their choices. My parents are now my business partners, and we have mutual respect. Rick is getting the help he needed, Elena is building a stable life, and I'm running businesses I'm passionate about with people who value my contributions. It took a year of family warfare to get here, but I wouldn't change anything about how it played out. Sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to be a victim, and sometimes, just sometimes, that refusal forces everyone around you to become better people. And there you have it, guys. A story of family, betrayal, and justice that shows sometimes patience and strategy can be more powerful than immediate revenge. What do you think? Did Alex do the right thing by confronting his family this way? Or do you think he should have been more direct from the beginning? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more incredible stories like this one, and share this with that person who always has complicated family drama. And speaking of dramatic family stories, right here on your screen, you'll find another story that's going to blow your mind. Click on it and keep enjoying the best content on the channel. See you in the next video.